GB couldn't spare a second at all. KC continues to fall. Flacco and Cooper went nuts. The Bengals got knocked on their butts. And Purdy kept giving away the ball. Welcome to the Mish Po. All right, everybody, welcome to the Mish Po. We are here, week 16 episode, but we are in the week 17 of the season, I believe. Yeah, we're at the championship for both sides of the bracket. Very exciting stuff. And so we will just jump right into it. All right, let's get this up on the screen here. And here we are. So, a little bit of a recap from last week, real quick, before we jump into the week 17 matchups. Obviously, week 16, we had me versus Adam in a sort of meaningless game. I mentioned in the messages earlier this week, really all that's at stake for those not competing for championship or the Sacko is just draft position. And so I mentioned I was kind of hoping to lose, but I ended up getting the victory. So now I'm going for the consolation championship and that sweet, sweet seventh place. So, fairly close matchup. It came down to Monday night. I think it was Monday night with Baltimore and San Francisco, and specifically Mr. Zay Flowers here. Pretty solid game from him. He's been doing pretty good as of late. Still only an RB or wide receiver 29 on the season. Whenever Andrews is out, he, kind of balls out for the most part. Yeah, that touchdown it sent him over the top. But besides him, I did also have some other decent performances. Bummer with Hawkinson with those torn ligaments in his leg, done for the year. Didn't really need him, I suppose. James Cook had a bit of a down week, especially considering how well he did. He still did, if it wasn't for the two fumbles and the lost fumble, which I believe took 5 points, which would have been a whopping 8 points for him. But still had 20 carries for 70 yards, so not too shabby for him there. And Flacco, as I mentioned in the Limerick, had an absolute heck of a game. 3 touchdowns and a 2-pointer. I think, did they all go to Amari Cooper? They may have, because he absolutely went off as well. We'll be talking about him a little bit later. But Adam had some decent performances. Baker continues to do real well. And Zamir White, in absence of Josh Jacobs, pretty good. Pretty good stuff from him. 145 yards on the ground on 22 carries. So almost double of what James Cook did. So great stuff potentially for him in the future. I do have him in a dynasty league, which I actually happen to be in the championship in, I believe. So hopefully he can be the starter next year because Jacobs might leave town. But anyways, pretty close matchup between Adam and I. And now I will be in the consolation championship. Speaking of the championship, 2 teams that were trying to get there in a much higher scoring matchup, Michael and Bruce. This one wasn't all that close. Obviously, it's about a difference of 20 points here. And I mean, we had obviously good performances with a score of almost 130 points for the losing team. Amari Cooper, as I mentioned over here, 51 and a half points for Bruce, but unfortunately was not able to get it done for him. Michael just had some guys just go off with Amon-Ra. Brandon Ayuk, despite not scoring a touchdown, had darn near 20. David Njoku's been doing real well lately. Obviously, Tyreek, James Conner all had great games. I did have Tyreek in another league, along with Tua, as Michael does here, and lost by less than 2 points, thanks to Lamar Jackson coming back for the opponent. So that was a bummer not to be in the championship there, but it's all right. But yeah, high scoring matchup in this championship semifinal, and Michael moves on to the championship. First time I think he's been there, maybe. Obviously, he's never won, So it could be a big day for him, but maybe not as well, because we've got this next matchup, the other side of the bracket, T-Corn versus Fiala. Again, very high scoring as you would expect, and T-Corn just absolutely blew Fiala out of the water. Against Fiala scored just about 120, just over, and T-Corn beat him by about 50 points. Yeah, he had absolute monster performances. Deontay, not so much, but pretty much everybody else. Cooper Kupp, again, also not great. But everyone else he's got like 5 players above 25 points here. So that's going to be a pretty solid lead up to the championship for T-Corn. I'm sure y'all know what I think will happen in that championship, but we will, of course, talk about that in a second. The 5th place matchup, Lincoln and Abby, is up next. Again, fairly close. We've had some pretty close matchups, which is, kind of hoped for in the playoffs to make it more exciting. And Lincoln did just barely eke away with that 5th place title here. Yeah, pretty solid performances from some guys here. Yeah, I mean, even also Jaden Reed didn't even play. Well, yeah, he didn't play, but he was in your lineup. So you could have had even more. Obviously, you probably would have gone Najee, or Nico. But I mean, you still won, so it doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, this was the last matchup for these two of the season, as they've already seeded themselves amongst the league. And so Lincoln is our 5th place team, and Abby obviously will be 6th place. And so that's that matchup. Pretty close one. One half of the Sacko bracket here is Caleb versus Brian. Pretty close, not as close as some other ones, but fairly close. Caleb obviously eked away here with the victory. I remember there was a point where Brian was like one of the top dogs in the league, but he has quite fallen off lately. So we'll see if he can kind of rectify that and get some good performances this week, as he now is in the Sacko Bowl against an opponent that will be discussed later. So, I mean, there were some decent performances, also not some great performances. Like Sutton here got injured after only receiving 1 target, no reception, so 0 from him. Luckily for Caleb, still got the victory. We had some good from Bijan again, not so much from Kamara. There was just some decent performances, not so decent performances. Devontae is one of them, only 1 catch for 4 yards. So he's probably a guy Brian's hoping will perform better next week, so he doesn't have to get punished and be the Sacko. So moving on to our other half of the Sacko Bracco is State Farm, a former Sacko, and Colin, a former Sacko. So one of these two will be, or I guess not anymore, but Colin is going to be potentially our first 2-time Sacko, which will be pretty fun. Yeah, State actually had a pretty good game. Good performances from his running backs here. Not so much from his receivers, but his flex did real well as well. So, and then obviously Kyler did pretty decent. And the other side, not so much for Colin. Some guys did well, but some guys just did not so much. Curtis Samuel and D Hop, 7 points combined between the two of them. So we'll see if those guys can perform a bit better in this upcoming week, as Colin will need all the points he can get. Does not probably want to be punished again. And it will be interesting to see if he does get Sacko, if he will tell us which punishment was worse. The diner, if you don't remember, he had to spend 12 hours there before the draft that year. And then obviously this year it's a 5K. So Colin might have to make a trip. Or I guess we'll go see him, or we'll figure it out when the time comes. But Colin lost and is in the Sacko bracket. Finally, The other half of the winners portion of the Sacko bracket is Matt versus Sam here. Kind of finding these two playing again as they played earlier and didn't go so well for Sam that time. And once again, Matt got the victory here. Also had a pretty decent game, good performances from some guys. Not so much Lawrence, but his running backs pretty solid. His receivers, well, not Jordan Addison. He also left with injury, so unfortunate for him. But Puka more than made up for it, along with Evan Ingram. Trey McBride also did pretty good, and then the return of Isaiah Pacheco, pretty good stuff from him. On the other side, there were some decent performances. Rashad White continues to be great, but Achan not so much. Tyler Boyd, meh. Once again, another very good performance from Demarcus Robinson. He's been kind of on a heater the last month, kind of surprising. And he has had 4 straight weeks of touchdowns. So we'll see if that can continue this week against a bad Giants defense. Sam, it's not super important, kind of just like my and Adams matchup. But it's good to have some good performing guys on your team. So, and the defense not too shabby as well, Tampa Bay. So that was last week's matchups. Once again, I will not be doing power rankings as it's kind of pointless at this point. And so we will jump into week 17, the final week of the season. First matchup, kind of fitting the two guys that kind of got shafted in terms of the opponents they faced and just their points against for the season. Me versus Matt here. So this one is for 7th place. So it should be a pretty solid matchup. But Matt and I have been pretty good over the course of the season, as I've mentioned before. We kind of have some placed in players. So I've had to pick up a new tight end because of the injury to Kelsey or Hawkinson. So I've got Juwan in there. And also kind of interesting, no one made any waiver claims. They ran through yesterday. I kind of thought yesterday was Monday or maybe Tuesday. I don't know what day. But I was like, oh, nobody made any waiver claims and I can just pick up him now. So got the full roster here. Obviously pretty solid players. Injury concern for Jordan Addison over here for Matt, as well as Isaiah Pacheco and Trevor Lawrence, but I'm sure he'll play. Maybe not the other two, but he's got the double tight end over here. I think I'm gonna go myself here. I'm gonna give myself the edge. Obviously, looking here, Matt is projected to win, but I don't care about that. And so, yeah, I think it should be a fun matchup. Again, doesn't super mean too much, but a little bit of bragging rights for the winner here. And yeah, I'm gonna pick myself. So I think we'll save this one for last. We'll move on to Bruce versus Fiala, the 3rd place matchup. And again, just reminder, the winner of this matchup does get, I believe it's $60 payout. If you all forgot, I believe maybe it's 30. No, it's 30 for 3rd, 60 for 2nd, and 120 for the winner. The reason I remember, it just worked out with the numbers that we have. The payment for this year was 15, and then double that was 3rd, double that was 2nd, and double that was 1st. So that's how it works out. So this matchup, yeah, playing for a cool $30. We've got some very good quarterbacks in this matchup here, decent running backs as well, and some solid receivers. We'll see how it all shakes out. Some guys have been not performing great as of late. Travis Kelce and Stephon Diggs are the big names I'm talking about here. Um, so it should be interesting to see how well they can go this week. Obviously, we've got Amari Cooper here, the blow up week this past week. And, we've got multiple guys on both teams that are capable of blow up weeks. Projections show this to be a pretty close matchup when I also anticipate this being a pretty close matchup, but I think going to give the edge to Fiala. He's just got some ballers. Obviously, like I said, they both do, but yeah, I think Fiala is going to come away with a victory here and claim that money. which will bring us on to, I guess I'll save that one for later on as well. Go to Caleb versus State Farm here, the 12th place game, I believe. No, 11th place game between Caleb and State. Um, should be fun. Russell, a little bit of insider information. It's probably not insider. It's well known at this point, but Russell is not going to be playing this week. I'm sure State Farm is going to be making arrangements for that. Obviously, he's got Kyler on his bench, so that's going to be an easy fix for him. Not going to have to pick up a player, but because Russ isn't playing, I wonder if that'll affect players such as Cortland Sutton over here on the other side of the matchup. We've got some good receivers, obviously, and Mike Evans over here. And then the pair of Waddle and Ridley. We'll see if they can have themselves a good game after Waddle, not so much, and Ridley very much, having good games last week. Kittle is always capable of a boom game. Lots of similar archetype players with very high upsides, including these two running backs over here for Caleb. Also over here for State. This should be a pretty good matchup too. But I think I'm going to give the edge to State here. He's down in that win percentage right now, but he does have a quarterback in his lineup that he's not going to be playing. So that'll obviously change things. I do think, State's going to win here. Take that 11th seed, or the 11th spot. And then we've got Adam versus Sam. This one is for 9th place. So it should be a fun matchup between two guys. Baker has been playing a lot better lately, and Mahomes not so much. Baker QB 11 would be so funny if he was worse than that. QB 7. Okay, so he has been good on the season, but as of late, you'd probably want Baker, to be honest. Another Tampa Bay player doing pretty well is Rachaad White over there. And, we do have some guys. Every team's got at least one or two ballers. A.J. Brown, obviously, pretty good player here. So, and then, like I mentioned, Zamir White, if Jacobs doesn't go, but Jacobs is on the roster as well. If he does go, another Tampa Bay guy, and Godwin might slot in to this matchup, but who knows? I will be picking Adam here, and actually, this is funny. I thought this would be the Sacko Bowl before the play, or before the matchups started week 1 of the playoffs, but they both won week 1 of the playoffs, but then lost week 2. So it'll be interesting to see what would have happened had they lost week 1 of the playoffs. So I'm going to pick Adam here. Could go either way, obviously. So the next matchup we will talk about is the Sacko Bowl. Colin and Brian. I'm very excited to see who wins this one. Actually, I'm more excited to see who loses this one. Obviously, it's the opposite of the winner. So we will know both at the same time, but it should be pretty fun. We've got some obviously very talented players here, but they haven't been performing up to snuff lately. Eckler has had a decent week this past week, but has been pretty bad for quite a while. Had that one good week against Denver with that touchdown there, but has not cracked 10 points since week 10 besides that week 14 matchup, and then last week where he just barely did so. So we'll see what kind of matchup he has this week. It was against that Denver team where he did have that 21-point game. So we'll see if he can do that again. And it kind of seems like Denver might not be trying where they're, with benching Russ and all. So we'll see how that'll go down. But also, can't really imagine Chargers trying too hard either. Got a pair of very solid receivers over here. And got some decent ones over here as well. Couple good tight ends. So we'll see how this goes. Should be a very fun matchup. I believe I've made this clear as well, but I think we will have a first-time Sacko, and so I am picking Colin to win, and I think Brian will be this year's Sacko. So that will bring us to arguably the most anticipated matchup of the weekend of the season, you could say. Our battle for the Bork between two former roommates, I believe, is this the third time they played this season? I can't remember if they were in rivalry week or not. Obviously, that's something I can check. It would have been the same week one matchup as we all learned that one time. So I'll quickly just check. Hey, go out! Shh. Stop it! Hey, who's this? Anyway, as you can see here, T-Corn played Brian in week one. So, well, maybe that doesn't make sense because I thought it was that. Maybe we'll check actual rivalry week because I played Caleb that week. So they did not play in rivalry week. It was T-Corn and Lincoln. So, but they obviously have played the season. I don't remember who won. It was probably Michael based off his record. Lily, there's a dog walking by. That's why Lily's barking. So, hold on. No. All right, let's just finish her up real quick. The dogs do need a walk. So after this, I will be giving them one. Obviously, two very good teams here. Both are in the championship for a reason. Very solid mobile quarterbacks here with Tua and Justin Fields. The running back core is very good as well. In fact, the two teams that I traded away a majority of my capital before the trade deadline. Obviously, JT going to Michael here. And then to T-Corn, Justin Fields, Christian McCaffrey, and is he going to play Deontay? Yeah, Deontay Johnson. I can't remember if there's anybody else. I don't think so. But should be interesting to see how this all goes down. Obviously, very good players across the board here. Guys capable of absolute monster games. But I believe I have made myself clear multiple times. I think T-Corn's going to win this one, become our second two-time champion. Joining State Farm in that regard. And Michael will have, I think he'll miss out his chance again for the Bork. How, as funny as that would be, I don't think it's going to happen. So if it does, that'd be pretty awesome. So it's kind of a win-win situation here. Either T-Corn wins and I'm correct from a prediction I made like 2 weeks ago, or Michael does, and he has to have the Bork in his possession for a year or so. Probably not quite a year, but you know what I mean, for quite a while, and that should be pretty fun for him and for all of us. So should be a very fun, probably very high-scoring game. We'll be kind of bummed if it's like 90 to 92 or whatever. So I hope they both score above at least 120. And I don't see any reason that they shouldn't unless they have absolute stinker games from multiple of their players. But should be a very fun matchup. I'm sure we're all looking forward to it, as I am. So, yeah, that'll just about do it for this week's episode of the Mish Po. I have done every single matchup prediction now, so no more predicting from me for the season. So yeah, good luck to everybody in this week's matchups, except for obviously Lincoln and Abby, as they don't have a matchup. But probably the most luck to me and T-Corn, as those are the ones I really care about. And I guess Colin, it'd be fun to see Brian be Sacko, but I don't really care either way. I just like being right sometimes, That's really where my motivation lies, in those luck wishing. So with that, thank you and thank you.